thing. Question mark?
Okay,
Most
we're
people are here, I
starting.
think.
Okay, we're good. I pressed the button this time.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode one. This is the second time we're recording this. The first time, we did a very good job, and then I forgot to press a button, so we couldn't hear anything in the screen recording, and Steven got really mad at me. So, we're doing it again. Um, this podcast is called It's All Inter- it, I'm already fucking this up. This podcast is called It's All Interconnected. It's a podcast in which we discuss numerous topics within the realm of sociology, criminology, and peace and justice with a focus on systemic racism and systemic oppression in general. My name is Alex. I am a student at a university in Pennsylvania, and I am currently a psych major, but I am switching it to sociology with a concentration in criminology. And my co-host, I will let him introduce himself.
Hi. So my name is Steven. I am a peace and justice major at a New York and I mean, what? At a university in New York. Um, um, I I don't know what I was saying next. So Alex and I are good friends, and we like to talk about um like highly complex topics like systemic racism and intersectionality and like various things like that. And so we decided to make this podcast so that we can like educate other people on like these topics that we like to speak about and just kind of spread the word about these important things that it's really critical to understand.
Yes, exactly. And like so realistically, right? We are two undergraduate college students. I'm a sophomore, he's a junior. So this is kind of I think that like educating people and spreading awareness on these issues in a way that is because this podcast is going up on YouTube, it's free. I don't know. There's probably not going to be any ads, at least not now. This could blow up. Who knows? Probably not
I
though.
would hope not.
Yeah, that would be a
If YouTube
disaster.
puts ads on this, I'm gonna crash out.
Me
Anyway,
too. Anyway, we're like, try our new AI YouTube feature. No.
yeah, no, that would go against that would ethically go against everything that this podcast is supposed to be,
Literally. But I think that like spreading educational awareness is a form of activism in itself, and
especially when it's
so
free.
we're right, and so we're essentially doing activism the only way that we know how, and that is easily accessible to us. I did have to pay for this. I had to pay for the Zoom Pro whatever, so that we could like talk for unlimited amount of time, which it was like only $20 a month, which I recognize I have privilege to say only $20 a month because I know that that is detrimental to a lot of people in this country and in the world, and I recognize that I have economic privilege in that department. Um, I'd also like to make a disclaimer that um, I already said this, but like we're both undergraduate students and we do not have an official degree yet in these topics. Therefore, um, there is a possibility that we could say things that are incorrect. So please take what we say with a grain of salt. Again, we're just two stupid idiots trying to make a difference in the world. And I'd also like to point out that we are both white, and we both recognize that we possess colossal amounts of privilege because of that, but we both care so much about people of color, and one of the best ways to show that you care about an oppressed community is try to understand their experiences. So, Stephen and I have mutual friends of color that we consistently speak to about their experiences, try to understand them, and we're going to be talking about that at some point on the episode today, probably. Um, because it's important that the world, especially white people in the world, understand what the black experience is like, because it's um, unimaginably tragic. And the overall goal of this podcast is to just educate viewers who are curious about the topic of systemic racism and how to become anti-racist and how to develop your critical thinking skills and how to develop empathy and things like that. So, yeah. Um, I think because some of the viewers on this podcast may be uneducated, I want to start with um, a kind of definition on what racism is and what systemic racism is, and the different types of racism, like the subtle and non-subtle types of racism. So I will let Stephen take over for context. Even this is the part last time where you talked about like covert versus like overt racism and like how that manifests. If you need a reminder.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I do remember talking about this last time. Um, so when a lot of people think about racism, they think about like they think about like what you would generally think of as racism, like having just like a dislike for people of color or like a certain racial group or something like that. That that and while it definitely is racism, and like that's valid and like it's important to address, that's not the only type of racism because there are other types of racism. So the racism that I was talking about, that's overt racism. That's like the really obvious kind that you can just easily tell. Um, it's not necessarily the most common type of racism, but it's definitely visible. And so I think a lot of people have the wrong assumption that it is common. But so the other types of racism are so there's two. I think there was two other types of racism. Uh, subtle
Covert
racism
and
and
then
then
systemic.
no. There was a second kind. Yeah, no. There's subtle racism and then there's systemic racism. Yeah, no, sorry, I remember this now. So there's subtle racism. So this is like the so subtle racism is where it's not obvious and it's like almost like some like instinctual type of things that you do and you don't even realize it. Um, this would be like something like holding your belongings tighter when you pass a person of color. This would be something like um like being fearful when you see a person of color, of like being fearful of your safety for no obvious reason. Um, like something like this. This is called subtle racism because it's not obvious, but it's not in the category of systemic racism because it's on the individual level. Um, the important distinction here is that when it goes to systemic racism, it's similar in the way that it's again not obvious, but systemic racism has to do with systems of oppression, how our society functions, and so systemic racism involves things like redlining, which is where highways are built through minorities. It's like just things that you would never think about until you realize it. It generally has to do with like how society was made and like specifically how it was made in a racist way to like inconvenience or flat out like disenfranchise people who are not white. So and a lot of times like these two higher tiers of racism can be very hard to wrap your mind around because like it's like very complex psychological processes um that like go on when these things happen and it's like it's not and on the surface it's not super like identifiable. So I think it's important to like when you're learning about these kind of things, it's important to like work on identifying the more obvious racism so that you can like get an idea of like the various forms of racism can look like, and then start immersing yourself in the world of other like more ambiguous types of racism so that you can like be more aware when those happen, even if it might you might not be able to see it that easily.
Okay. You done? We're good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You keep going.
That was beautifully stated. I really like the part where you made that distinction between covert and systemic racism. Like that was beautifully said. That made a lot of sense. Um, I think that any uneducated people like will understand that very very well. So good job. I'm proud of you. Um, I so now that y'all understand the different types of racism, I want to talk about a way that systemic. So racism can be covert and systemic at the same time, right? Because couldn't you argue that like systemic racism is also a form of covert racism, or is it the other way around? Could you argue that covert racism is a form of systemic racism?
well, no, it's the other way around. Systemic racism is a form of covert because like it's not obvious, and then but it's on the other way around because like covert racism is when subtle racism, I think it's called. It is on the individual level, so that can't be systemic. Like that, like
Okay.
unless like an entire town of people, like what is that called? Sunset towns. Those things, like that could be a
That's
way
what
that
those are? I've always wondered what sunset towns were.
yeah. I mean, I'm not black, so maybe I'm like maybe I'm misinformed about this, but I understand it's like very, very racist zones, like where if you're black, you don't want to go there. Like everybody's just like super racist, which I mean, I guess could be like more the obvious type of racism. I don't know. But like what I'm saying, like if there's like a whole group of people who like suddenly have these like reactions to people of color, that could be like a somewhat like on a smaller level systemic type of sort of racism, but like generally it's the other way around. Systemic racism is always usually subtle because like it's designed that way. It's designed to like not be obvious, or else people will probably be mad.
Okay, that was actually very helpful. Thank you. Um, I needed like I got confused for a second. We're good. We're good. Um, so a form of systemic racism that I think is a good place to start with introducing the topic is racism within the media because I feel like a lot of viewers here know, have experience with the media, whether it be social media or the news or like just any type of media. Um, so I wanted to go on a little spiel about that. Um, so I want to clarify. I learned everything I'm about to say. I learned it in my criminology lecture with one of my professors. She's incredible. I don't know if she's. I don't know. I might ask her to listen to this if she wants to. Dr. Blank, if you're listening to this, you know who you are. You are incredible. I love you so much. And I want to give credit where credit is due. So I was taught the information I'm about to share. I don't want to act like I figured this out. I didn't. I was taught it in a lecture. But so okay. I want you, the viewers, to think about the last time you watched the news. Who when a violent crime is reported on the national news, I want you to think about, or at least imagine, when you imagine a violent crime being perpetuated on the news, who is the most likely to be the perpetrator? What do they look like? If your answer was a black man, you'd be correct. Um, Typically, when a crime is being reported on the news, the perpetrator tends to be a young black man from a low-income area or a low SES socioeconomic status background. And the uh, and his um, portrayal on the news, his mugshot is typically shown, um, and the victim, where comparatively, is typically a young white woman from a high SES area, so a young, affluent, conventionally attractive white woman is typically the victim in this situation. And if you're wondering, well, how do you know that it's majority black men who are being portrayed as crime? There's a statistic that we actually found on the first recording of this that is scrapped now, but it was something you found it, Stephen. It was something like 70 something percent of violent crimes portrayed on the news are of a black male perpetrator. It was something like that, right?
Sorry, I'm trying to find on Google. It's unfortunately Google will not give it to me now. But yes, I remember. I don't remember like the specific name of the source, but yes, you're correct. That was the number. 75% of like people like crimes reported on the news have like a black what do you call it? A defendant like a
No offender.
offender. Yeah, yeah.
Defender.
Thank you.
Sorry. But yeah, so there's evidence to back this up. That this is a problem. And the reason why news sources do this is because when they portray a when news companies portray violent crime and the majority of the perpetrators are black, that perpetuates um, covert bias in the viewers, the white viewers, that black men in particular are nefarious, dangerous, have criminal intent, are animalistic, violent, like should be feared, inferior. Like That is the message that is being perpetuated, and that bias implants in the heads of white children. And like, it happened to me. I have spent like the last year deconstructing my own racial biases that I know I have, and one of them was that oops, when a black man would walk by me, I would clutch my stuff tighter. And because in my head, I thought, because of that bias, that all black men are dangerous and are going to rob you, because that's what the news taught me growing up. This is a real problem, and I've experienced it myself. And for the past year, I've been working on deconstructing those biases, and that specific one, I have actually fully deconstructed, which I'm very proud of. Um, and so the news companies, by perpetuating that bias and portraying black men as violent criminals, while also not acknowledging the fact that black people from those areas are often significantly more likely to be victimized, the news companies perpetuate the white supremacist narrative that black men and just black people in general are violent and somehow less than the white population. It's a white supremacist thing that is perpetuated by these corporations. So you'll probably never look at the news the same way after that. Sorry. So that's kind of how that happens in the media. When my criminology professor showed me, like, told us that, my mind was blown because I, as a white person, never thought about that. Because of course I didn't, because I'm white. We being when you're white and you go on like an anti-racist journey, I think it's called. Like it just your mind just gets blown by how much racism, systemic, subtle, or otherwise, that there is. Like it is insane how much there is. Um, Steven and I were in Philadelphia the other day for we went to go see a show and we met up there. He took the train from New York. I took the train from my town in Pennsylvania, and um, we were walking through the neighborhoods in where were we? We were like in between 30th Street and Fishtown. Then we went into Fishtown, and we saw
It was like east of Center City, I
right,
think.
right, right. Like we saw redlining in action, which redlining to refresh is where um, the government in the 19 whatever year it was.
In the 1960s, the government they would so they would basically like draw these maps of cities, and then they would like highlight specific neighborhoods in red, and these red neighborhoods would have like high minority populations, and those red neighborhoods are where the highways are routed. Like even if it made it like more inconvenient for like the construction process or like the drivers on the highway or whatever, like regardless of what that was, like they would make sure that they just destroyed those neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's essentially meant to like sever the lives of minority individuals because so me and Stephen, we saw this in Philadelphia. We saw this. We couldn't have, if we did not know what redlining was, we wouldn't have noticed it. Which is, we just on a highway. Like we wouldn't have cared. Which is why education this is so important. Like we were looking at these every time we went under an underpass that was often through a minority community. Shocker. I remember like me and him just felt like so much outrage because like, what are we doing? Like, why are we running a fucking highway through these communities that rely on community and togetherness and you're severing it down the middle by a fucking highway. And not to mention, not even that, like highways produce a colossal amount of pollution, noise, and like it just is horrible to look at. So like, and we know that research in psychology it shows, and developmental psychology it shows that having growing up in an environment with like a lot of nature and greenery is going to benefit a child's development more so than a child growing up in an urban environment. So a child growing up in like the suburbs with like trees and parks and blah 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 is going to have like an easier developmental journey than a child who's growing up next to a fucking underpass, right? So it, it the reason why they plow those underpasses through minority communities is because they want to hurt those children and they want to hurt those families. Because being next to an underpass is a lot of noise, so you're probably getting no fucking sleep. It's the nature aspect I just said. And there's so much pollution that goes into that neighborhood that is right there. So that's why they do it. They do it to be racist. Um,
Also, I wanted to add to the Philadelphia example. Like, so not only did they build the highway to the area. They also gutted the public transportation in that area because that neighborhood. Because I looked into like the history of the neighborhood after we saw that underpass, and it used to have like trolleys and buses and like any type of and bikes and any type of like energy efficient transit you could think of on almost every street. And and then in the 1960s when the highway came through and destroyed everything, the transit also slowly went away. And by the time that we were there, almost none of the street had buses. We tried to take the trolley, but we had to wait like some ungodly amount of time. Then when the trolley showed up, it was actually a bus. And then when the bus left. It didn't even go to the place that it said it was going to go. So the 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 transit is in an absolutely abysmal state. So not only do you have a highway running through your neighborhood, you also can like barely do anything except for a walk because like taxis are expensive and the only cheap option, which is transit, is horrible. It sucks. So that's another aspect of racism that like the complete disarray of transit right now.
Oh yeah, that's a very. I would forgot to mention that. So thank you so much. I think that that's also a really good point. Um, yeah, it's disgusting the state of yeah. The trolley was a disaster. It was. We waited on like a stop in the middle of the fucking street. By the way, Stephen almost got hit by a car when we were trying to get over there. But it was in the middle of the. It was in the
Literally.
middle of the street, a busy intersection, mind you, in the middle of Fishtown, and we waited at that stop for maybe like what 20 minutes in the cold because it was getting dark, and then
Right,
when
yeah.
the bus, not even try, the bus comes and I'm like, okay, I'm tracking it on Google Maps, and it's, I'm like, okay, like it's going a different way, and I was like, okay, if it doesn't stop at this stop or it doesn't turn on this road, we're gonna get off, and it didn't do that. I was like, okay, something's wrong, we're just gonna go, and then we were even farther from where we needed to be, so then we had to walk like 20 more minutes to the venue, which we got there on time. But like, it was so just like, and it was honestly, walking was honestly kind of fun to like see everything, and like, so it was fun, but it's just like, bro, like that was atrocious. And then also, something that I wanted to bring up was I was walking. So I had been in Fishtown before, and it was at night, and I was with my two other friends who Steven doesn't know, and because we were going to a concert, and I remember my friend was telling me like, oh my god, Fishtown's so dangerous. Like, you don't want to be around, you'll get mugged. And I'm like, okay. So I was nervous about going into Fishtown because I had this preconceived notion from my friend that it was a dangerous area. And so I get to Fishtown with Steven, and I'm like, and I'm walking around like in like the near dark, and I was like, this isn't scary at all. Like I felt safe, and like I have OCD, and one of my obsessions and compulsions is that I get really scared in the dark, especially in city environments. So normally I would be shitting my pants in that kind of a situation, but I felt safe, and for me to feel safe with OCD in a city in the nighttime is like was huge, and it just showed me like I just made me think like what other areas of the city and just cities in general do I think are dangerous that actually aren't, like, like it just made me think like how much of
I,
my concern about urban crime is valid and how much of it is just due to racial bias, and I still think about that, you know what I mean? It just got me thinking.
I actually had a very similar experience with like being in shock about like the manufactured like hysteria about low income areas because the first time that I went up to the Bronx for reasons that I won't elaborate on, it
I
was
know.
at night. It was at night, and so I was like expecting like a war zone or something. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, the Bronx is dangerous." Like, like I thought there was gonna be like piles of drugs on every corner or something. And then I got off the train. It's like this is just a neighborhood. Like, what is the hysteria about? What is everyone all up in arms about? Like, it's literally just a neighborhood. Like, sure, there's like a graffiti tag or like
It's because it's a
a
majority
building with
black
like a
area.
broken window. Like, it's not that bad.
It's because
What?
it's a majority black area.
Yeah, no. Like, realistically, I know that that's what it is. But like, this was my thought process when I first like saw it. I was like, oh my god, like this is like not anything of what anyone ever said. it was like a huge aha moment for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I do want to go to the Bronx to do something just to like see it for myself. I want to have that moment.
We should go to the Bronx together sometime when you
Just
come
like
to New
walk
York.
around and like look at things and like see the economic disparity. Like I just want to know.
We should. That would also be fun to
Yeah,
explore
you
that
were
and
probably
yeah.
walking on the street expecting it to look like Kensington. Because Kensington is really bad because of the drug problems. Kensington is really bad. Like when you look at footage of it, it's like Jesus Christ. Um, so you were probably expecting that, but you just walk out and I'm like, bro, you were just like, bro, like this is fine. Like what is the issue? Um, so yeah, I forget what I was gonna say. I don't know. I
Um,
wanna I part. I really wanna go on like a trip of some sort where I go into low income communities, like just in cities all over the US. And just like low income areas and just like talk to the people there, understand their I wanna go on like a massive like information gathering spree. If that makes any sense.
so, no, wait. That's the thing I was talking about last time. The minority informed learning. That's what that
I
is,
wanna do
and that's one
that.
of the best ways. Yeah, yeah. That's one of the best ways to understand like a minority's perspective. Because like, sure, you can read about it in a book or like I feel awkward by saying a book. Like on a
Yeah.
website or something. Like you could read about it somewhere, and but like and that's great. But like you still don't know like the actual lived experiences of that community unless you talk to them directly. And so that's why that a community informed, minority informed learning is like one of the best ways to like actually give the inside scoop about like
Inside
what's
scoop.
going on. I don't know why I said that.
Why was that so fucking? You can get the inside scoop of what it's like growing up in the hood. Like, what the fuck? This is not a journalism
um,
article, my guy.
sorry. That was really funny. I don't know what to say. Oh, like to understand, to understand in like an informed way about like what these people experience and like what their struggles have been, and to understand their history and their present. So yeah, that was hilarious.
Here, you can get the inside scoop about, like, bruh. You sound like a pop. I don't even know what you sounded like. But anyway, yeah, that I feel like minority informed learning that is a form of activism in itself. You know,
Oh, definitely it
I
is.
just like
Yeah.
if I didn't have horrendous social anxiety and I could like actually afford to like travel all over the United States, which I can't, I would go to those communities and just find people and be like, hey, did you grow up here? What was it like? Tell me, like, because that's a weird fucking thing to say to somebody. So like, I don't
Literally.
know how to like I don't know how I would like do that in a way that doesn't make me seem like a fucking creep. Like, it,
That and also like I don't know how I would gain their trust because like when you enter like a community like that, and especially when you're like not part of that community, like like they're not gonna trust you,
yeah, of course.
understandably. So like
Especially me being a white person, I do not blame them. I don't blame
exactly.
them at all.
So no, I don't blame them the slightest because what our race has done to them is
Has done and
absolutely
is
horrific.
doing.
Right? No, yeah. Sorry, I should include that. But like I meant like in a historical sense, but like yeah, just what they're still doing because it's still happening very much. Um, so like yeah, no, I don't like that seems like a really hard thing to do. So that's definitely a challenge or something like
Yeah, I
that.
don't know how I would do that. Hmm.
I mean, it's a challenge for like anyone who tries to do something like that. That's why you don't see it a
Right.
lot.
Interesting. There was a YouTube video I saw like years back, but it made a big impact on me. It was this guy who and he did it for views, which I don't like. But he went into like low income communities and paid people's rent for them, which like I didn't like that he did it on camera because it was clearly for the camera, which was not was
That
so
that's not
so like
real
it didn't
activism. If you're doing it
so
for
like
the
it didn't make
appearance,
an impact. It doesn't make an impact on me now because I realize that. But like my point is, he went to a low income community in Florida. I think it was like a low income like majority black community, and everybody in like that he knocked on said, "Don't go down this street. Don't go down. You'll get mugged. Whatever." Like even the residents were saying that, and he went down that street and he made like very meaningful connections down there. And one of the comments on the video said, "This guy, everybody told him to not go down that street, and he went down that street and made very meaningful connections. I think that we should apply that everywhere." And I was like, "Yes!" Like, I just think that that's so important. Like, if somebody's like, "Oh, don't go here because of these people," like, no, like, go find those people and make connections with them. Because people in minority groups have so much to offer because they have so much wisdom and crystallized intelligence because of what they have been through. As you have to become strong and resilient and intelligent when you've been through so much prejudice. So I value the opinions of minority groups much more than the opinions of white people because like they've been through so much more and they have so much more wisdom and intelligence and resilience and strength and bravery than we do. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, and non-gender non-conforming people, we need to amplify and emphasize the voices of people of color and other minority groups, not suffocate and silence them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
what you just said is why representation is so important. I think a lot of people are like, oh, why is representation matter? Like, what? But who
It's
just joined?
girlfriend. She's just listening.
Oh, hi, uh, Sarah. Anyway, what was my train of thought? Oh, yeah. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, why does representation matter? Like that's not real actions, but like, yes, it is because like when you see someone who is in like a minority community, in a minority community, and is like in some type of media, like not only is that empowering for like everybody else who's in that community, like it also gives them visibility like because for the longest time, like within media, you you really never saw that, and so like and a lot of times like yeah, sure, a lot of white people are racist, but like a lot of like white people like say like ignorant slash like borderline like subtly racist things specifically because they don't understand that like they don't have a person from that minority community in their lives. They never see the person from that minority community in media. They don't understand that community at all. So they're only going on by like just usually incorrect stereotypes that other white people have told them. So and but like they're not like a bad person. They just like genuinely don't know. So like for the from just the purpose of like education and awareness, representation is actually extremely important. Uh, and I wish more people would
Oh, I
understand that.
fully agree. I think that's why it's so important to have people of color in your lives who are willing to have educational conversations with you about their experiences so that you can work on reducing that bias. And Jesus Christ. I just looked in my notes and something that we discussed last time that we didn't get to yet was how intersectionality and privilege works and how those things overlap.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, no, because those are important
Yeah.
things to understand. So intersectionality is that describes so this is like it's like a narrow definition and like a broad definition. The narrow definition is just like when you're part of two minority communities. There's also multi-intersectional, which means you're part of three or more
Steven and I are both
marginalized communities.
multi-intersectional. I'm I'm
Yeah,
a
we should have had
woman,
that. Sorry.
uh, disabled, and in the LGBTQ community. He is disabled, gay, and low income. So yeah.
Yes, thank you. Oh yeah,
Uh.
okay. So multi-intersectional is shut up.
uh. Dirt.
Okay, no, seriously.
Should I sound like a donkey?
What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Okay. So multi-intersectional is like it's whole own other thing. But so intersectionality. So it can mean like being part of two minority communities, but it's also just like a general frame.
I'm so sorry.
What did I say?
It was something that girlfriend
Oh, okay.
texted me.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's hilarious. Okay. Okay. Guys, not
No, no,
now.
no, it's
Not
not that,
now.
it's not that. It's something funny.
Okay. Okay.
I swear to God.
Lock in. Okay, lock in. Oh yeah. Okay. So intersectional is also like a framework of like thinking about how like various communities overlap because so like these like people who are intersectional or multi intersectional have like so Alex was just saying about like how he values the opinion of minorities like more than white people, which makes sense because like historically they've been oppressed and like white people have been the oppressors. So like big trust issues. But so like what the arguably the opinions of like multi intersectional and intersectional people aren't like even more important because like they're one of the rare few who get a glimpse into like into like a multiple communities at once, and B, how those communities interact with each other. So, and that's like not a perspective that a ton of people have. So it's really important to like take what they have to say seriously and like understand that like their experiences are very valid and like also extremely useful for understanding like how stuff like this works. And then
Grr.
so
I'm not listening to a
privilege
word
links
he's
into
saying
this
right
because
now.
so privilege is a similarly complex thing. So
Skirt.
at its base, it means just like having like some type of advantage over someone else in some way. Like someone who has more money is more privileged than someone who has less money, which that's like a really basic example. And then so like, but as you like broaden out, it can like privilege works in like it can be segmented and divided across like identities because so like a person could be privileged in one way and then not privileged in another. So like me, like you, I'm white and I'm a man. So in those ways, I have privilege. So because like usually, like what I say will be taken much more seriously than someone who's not a white man. But I'm also gay and disabled, and so I'm still part of minority communities, and I still experience ableism and I mean, homophobia and ableism. Sorry, homophobia and ableism. So like, I'm still experiencing oppression, but like in other ways than I have a privilege. So that's what I'm talking about segmentation. And then there's also privilege within communities because like so within the gay community, I am a white gay man. So even though like I'm gay and I obviously experience homophobia, there's still like I still have privilege over like say a black trans woman or something like because like what they have to say will be by white people at least will be taken much less seriously than whatever I have to say. So and then like so this is where you get the idea of acknowledging privilege. It's really important to acknowledge privilege because like when you have that kind of like advantage over others but you're still part of a community, it's really important to understand that you have that privilege because if you don't, then like you're kind of just like wasting an opportunity to speak for a community whose other members like don't have the ability to like spread that message as much as you would be able to. So um yeah, so it's really important to be aware of privilege in all its forms. But like start out like just like understand like the general idea of privilege and intersectionality because like those are very like base core concepts like within uh this whole like field of study. But and then they'll get more complex as we go
That
on.
was, I can't talk. That was beautifully stated. I wanted to give, so I have no addition because you explained that so well, so good job. I understand why
Oh,
that's your
thank
favorite
you.
topic because you explain it so fucking well. Um, but yeah, privilege and intersectionality can definitely overlap with each other, and that can kind of create a complex view of personal identity. For me, I'm a woman. I'm disabled, visibly disabled, and I'm a part of the LGBTQ community. Those three things make me marginalized, and my experiences with that marginalization, that discrimination, are very valid, right? However, I also recognize that I possess colossal amounts of privilege by being a white person from a middle to high SES background. I have so much privilege there. So that's kind of,
SES means social economic status, by the way.
yeah, I said that
Socioeconomic
already.
status. I just want to think. Oh, you
Yes.
did? Oh, I'm sorry.
um, so yeah, I have a lot of privilege there, and I try to acknowledge that and keep that in mind as much as possible. And I'm still, you know, learning ways in which that privilege affects me. Like there's still times where I'm like, there's probably still aspects of that privilege that I don't even realize give me privilege. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm still on that journey of recognizing what that privilege means and how my life as a white person from a high SES background compares to a black person from a low SES background. Like I'm still trying to figure out, I'm still
That
trying
makes
to
sense.
figure out like that massive discrepancy, and there's still aspects of it that I probably don't understand yet, and that's okay. And discovering your privilege and how it affects you, or your marginalization and how it affects you, is a massive journey that is so convoluted, and it's like mental gymnastics in a way. Um, but it's very worth it. It makes you see the world and other people in a whole. It helps you foster empathy and critical thinking skills and just like, in my opinion, more intelligence.
Yeah, no, you said that extremely well. No, that makes so much sense because, like, yeah, the journey to fully understanding your privilege is a massive one, and it can take a really long time. So, yeah, no, you did a great job, and I agree. Like, it is extremely rewarding, just not even for everyone else, but just like you in general too, because like of all the stuff you just said, like there's like ways that I didn't even realize that I was privileged just until just like very recently. Like, I like that he mentioned um a visible disabled because so for the most part my disabilities are fairly invisible and
Not the
like
vision.
well only one aspect of like I have four vision conditions and then only one is like somewhat noticeable if you like really stare at my eyes. So
That's true.
like in that way like if someone just like looked at me on the street and like for a
They
second like
wouldn't know.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't think like oh he's disabled. Yeah. So whereas like for you probably not. I mean no offense but like probably not. So like and I didn't like I always like assumed that like since like someone could like in some circumstances see it like oh I was not really like invisible like invisibly disabled but like now that I thought about it more like I realized that I am like I actually have a lot of privilege by for the most part like not being like visually disabled so because like like I can very much pass for able much more than someone who's like in a wheelchair or something. So like and I didn't realize that that was like a privilege thing until really
Yeah,
recently.
that's a good. I
So
didn't even. Yeah, that's like you can be marginalized in a community, but be privileged in that marginalized community over other people in that marginalized community. If that makes any fucking sense. Like same thing. Like for me,
that's called inter-community
I did
marginalization.
not know that. Thank you. He learns a lot more words about this stuff that I do in my major. But anyway,
There's a lot of wordy words
wordy
about this. I'm
words.
sorry.
Um, he knows all those. I do not. I know about all the theories. He knows about all the vocab terms. But and I'll
And
go
we're a
on
great
my
team together.
theories rants in later episodes. That's too complex for the viewers right now, probably. I don't want to. I don't want to shove social disorganization theory and social bonds theory and all that in your face right now. But um,
But trust me, that will be a thing we get to
oh
because he
yeah,
loves
I could
that.
talk for hours about those two. But anyway, um, I was trying to say, like, with me, with being disabled, like, am I visibly disabled? Yes. If you look at me on the street and you look at my glasses, you can tell that something's wrong because my glasses are very, very thick and they make my eyes look a lot smaller than they actually are, and so you can kind of tell, like, there's something wrong here. However, if you looked at me for a second and, like, not thinking about it, you probably would be like, oh, she just has glasses. But, like, if you actually look you can see like it's the same thing with you. Whereas if I was in a wheelchair, you would notice that immediately. So for me, I do have privilege over a wheelchair bound person in the disabled community. Does that make sense? Like, you know?
No, you said that
And
really
like
well.
with me,
That made
sorry,
that.
one more thing, sorry. I'm a lesbian, and I am gender fluid, and that makes me marginalized. However, I am also white, and therefore I possess more privilege in the LGBTQ community over a black gender fluid lesbian. Like I would possess more privilege than her because of my race, even though we possess the same sexual and sexually oriented and gender identity.
Yeah. No, you said that extremely well. I'm proud of you.
What were you gonna say?
I don't know. Well, yeah, no, I was just saying, like, you said that
Oh,
really well.
thanks.
Like, that was the main thing I want to say. Uh, what else did you have written down that we
We
talked about
talked
last
about
time?
like how to we talked about like on TikTok like supporting black creators. We talked about like the 14th documentary and the preschool to prison documentary, which we didn't do yet.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. So the thing is, we're just two people yapping on the internet. So like, if you really want to know more about this stuff, like, look up these things that we're about to mention now, because like they, I mean, like, we're smart. I think I would hope. But like the people who made the things we're about to say like are really talented and like uh big brain. So support them. Um, and also I think actually part of their marginalized communities. So that's it. But anyway, so about the black creator thing. I remember last time Alex was saying about how like it's important like just so this goes back to the uh, minority informed learning thing. So like since realistically you can't just like travel to like a disadvantaged area and just find a person and be like, hey, like tell me about your experiences. Um, uh, the next best thing is usually going on the internet because a lot of times people speak about their experience on the internet since it's like it's either anonymous or like free or easy to use or whatever. So go on like TikTok or Instagram or whatever and just like search for black creators, search for like racism experiences or like just really anything. Search for like whatever your community is like that you want to learn more about, and then just watch stuff. Watch stuff about people who are from those communities, and they will tell you. They will help educate you. And read through the comments. Maybe I don't know. If you're on Instagram, maybe not because that comment section is absolute cesspool. But if you're on TikTok, then yeah, read through the comments and um like there'll probably be more helpful stuff down there too, and like more like interesting conversations to read. But like, so not only are you like supporting like people from the community by like giving them views and stuff, and therefore money maybe, you're also like educating yourself. So like it's a win-win. And then so about the documentaries thing. So I forgot what Alex said about his documentary. He could cook with that. But first I want to mention so there is a documentary on well, it's a Netflix documentary, but you can get it free on YouTube. Just search 13th documentary. And so it's a really good documentary about the 13th Amendment. And this documentary is so it was made by like people in the black community, so slay and support them if you watch that. And so it explained about how the 13th Amendment bans slavery, but it gives the exception of a prison, a a punishment for a crime. And so it goes it's like a chronological thing. It goes like through the history and explains like how at first like they were not subtle about it. Like they just literally like wrote laws that like if you were a black you were a criminal. And so like they used that to basically get the slaves back. And then so over time it morphed and nowadays it's the for, for-profit prison system, and where they will like criminalize like homelessness or like treat drugs as a crime rather than a health issue or like stuff like that, and they will use that to funnel people, usually black men, into prisons so that then they could be basically just worked for nothing, or pennies. So like it's a very informative documentary. It's very eye opening. It gives you a lot of jarring statistics about mass incarceration in the U.S. So like if you're interested in any of that, definitely give that a watch. So Alex also has this equally as interesting documentary, which I'll
Okay,
let him talk about now.
so a while ago in my criminology class, my professor um, invited the class to this event that was happening in a nearby city. Um, and it was a documentary screening of a documentary called Preschool to Prison. It was directed by a wonderful lady named Karen Baptiste. She grew up in the Bronx and witnessed the preschool to prison pipeline, which I'll talk about in a second, herself growing up in that area. She obtained her doctorate. She's a very incredible black woman. Um, and she made a documentary called Preschool to Prison. It is on Amazon Prime. I wish it was on a freer resource, but hey, you gotta make that bang. I understand. Um, and it is incredible. If you have Amazon Prime, go watch it. It's around 30 minutes long. It's not like agonizing long or anything. It is incredibly well done. Um, to give context on what the preschool to prison pipeline is, so in many schools, particularly like underfunded schools, there are these things called zero tolerance policies that are implemented, like absolutely no bullying, absolutely no fighting, absolutely no phone use, whatever it may be, right? And we know that those policies implemented by teachers are highly disadvantageous to marginalized students, black students, other students of color, disabled students, traumatized students, low income students. We know that those are the students that are going to be punished more and be caught more for violating those policies, right? So, and so because these kids are punished more severely because of their demographic or because of their experiences by staff, that leads to, especially if the child is from a low income community, it leads to, and they don't have outside support, so that leads into social bond theory, but that's later. If that child does not have outside support, and they are traumatized, and they are low income, and they are of a other marginalized groups, like like a child of color, and they are going to be more targeted by those zero tolerance policies, and that is going to lead to further isolation. It's going to lead to suspensions and expulsions and truancy, and then from that point on, especially if that child has an incarcerated parent, they are over 7 times likely to enter the juvenile justice system and then the adult incarceration system. So essentially, zero tolerance policies hurt marginalized children. Those children have no support in the school system. They get caught more easily for those zero tolerance policies for violating them because they're a kid. That leads to isolation, truancy, expulsion, suspension, sometimes in a lot of cases. And then that leads to increased risk of being incarcerated. Essentially, that's how it works. And notice I said preschool bro. Notice how I said preschool to not school to prison pilot, preschool, because this is happening to preschoolers. 3-year-olds are getting suspended, and the majority of them are black and from low-income communities, and that's not an accident. And if your thought process is, oh my god, it should be, because it's fucking disgusting. And so the documentary is about that. It's an incredible piece of work. Please go check it out if you can.
So uh, you would just said please check it out, and that reminded me. So I'm gonna link these down in the dis. Don't say that's culture appropriation. Culture appropriation is the whole thing. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, I'm going to link these things down in the description, hopefully, because hopefully this will actually be posted.
This time we'll
um,
actually post it.
so yeah, okay. So I will do that. And then, so I also wanted to add a thought about your thing because I really like that you added in disability when you were like listing like the minorities affected because I actually have my own experiences with um zero tolerance policies, even though I'm white. Because so in my middle school, they had a no phones rule. Like you weren't really allowed. I think you were only like allowed to use it at lunchroom, which nobody really followed. So like I don't know why they were so stingy about it with me. But anyway, so after like a lot of begging between me and my parents, so yeah, that's another thing. Like I was very privileged to have like external support by my parents. So there's that too. But anyway, so after a lot of begging, I have vision disability. So like context with that, and like so I struggle a lot in class, and like digital signage help me because like I'm able to type and zoom in and like things that are easier than writing. So after a lot of nagging them, I finally got a computer in like late sixth grade. Then, um, but except because they wanted to be cheap and didn't like me, it was this ancient thing that was probably like older than me, and like it ran like a snail. So even though I had the technology that was supposed to help me, it took the same amount of time, which was amazing. But anyway, that's not the point of this. So in seventh grade, so in the summer between sixth and seventh grade, I got a phone, my first phone. And so then in seventh grade, because the computer was a piece of crap, it stopped. It just completely bricked and didn't work. Uh, so then me and my parents were like, can you fix this? Because this is like basically his eyes. And the school was like, maybe. I so badly want to shout out this school, but like, I don't want to be sued. So, but yeah, the school's like, mind you, this is middle school, so like, yeah. Anyway, so they were like, maybe we'll get to it. Like, it was blatant ADA violation, but anyway, so my parents were like, no, absolutely not. Like, it's like, so my parents were like, we give you full permission to like use your phone as a magnifier or like a notes app or like, well, whatever you need to do to like to replace the computer since they're not doing anything. And so I did. So I would use the phone in class like how I would use a computer, which was amazing because it actually worked. And then Stevie, don't use your phone. I'm like, bro, like everybody else is like snapgramming and all this stuff, and you're actually using it for educational purposes, and you're calling on me. Like it was so annoying. And then so I sound like a grandpa. It combined Instagram and Snapchat. But anyway, yeah. So it was so annoying, and so I guess they were really sick of me using my phone because eventually they got the computer fixed. But like I like like that was probably the closest I ever came to getting detention. Like they literally sent me to the office like multiple times, and then the principal was like, "Why are you here?" And then I was like, I'm literally using my phone for like educational purposes. Like I would show him like, here's the notes on my phone. Like here's a picture of the board that I took. And it was like, oh, okay, like just go back to class. And so I did, and then I was like bouncing back and forth between the office and class. So and like I was like a good like rule abiding kid, so I was terrified that I was going to get in trouble at some point. And so thankfully I never actually did, but like it was really annoying because I missed a bunch of class because I kept getting sent to the office. So yeah, so like I definitely have an experience with that. So thank you for including that.
Yeah, yeah, like you've told me about like a lot of things you've been through in regards to ableism, and like I, yeah, like I have my own experiences with ableism with, you know, teachers and mostly other students. I experienced a lot of ostracism, and I know you did too, Stephen. Um, I don't really want to talk about that on the first episode, but just like there's not enough conversation about what disabled students, especially disabled students from low-income communities, go through. Um, they often fall through the cracks in the underfunded schools. I know well, Stephen and I both know someone who did. We have a friend named Daryl. He has dyslexia and ADHD, and he's black and from a low-income community. And because his school didn't have the funding they didn't have the school psychologist or the social worker or anything. They didn't have any of that because he's from the Bronx, right? Yeah. And so he
Yeah,
fell
yeah,
through the
Bronx.
cracks in an underfunded school system, and he never got treated for his neurodivergence, and now he's struggling, and he experiences a lot of ableism and racism because of those things. And like my heart aches for him because like no child should have to suffer through that. You know what I mean?
Definitely no, yeah, no. I feel so bad for him too because like I feel lucky enough to have. I mean, like from what it seems like he's had supportive parents too, but like they seem like even more financially disadvantaged than mine. So like I understand like why their support was ultimately limited because like even my parents' support was like I'm not trying to invalidate his experience, I promise, but like even my parents' support was limited because like when the whole computer thing happened, like I just told you, like my parents were literally like if we had the money, we'd get you a new computer because like they're clearly not going to do anything. Uh, but like they didn't, so they couldn't get me a computer. So, and also, if for anyone who's like weird and ignorant, who's watching this and be like, what? How do you print a boy a phone, not a computer? Mind you, it was like an this ancient iPhone SE or something that was like already used and probably probably not even $100. It was not like the fancy new smartphone. So yeah. So please go away if you're thinking that. Because clearly you don't want to be educated. But anyway, so yeah. So like when you don't have those financial resources and the school either doesn't care or doesn't either also have the resources, like it's very easy to
Yep.
just fall through the cracks.
That's exactly it. And it and also getting a neuropsychological evaluation is hard enough to do when you're affluent to get it through the school. Like you have to fight to the death to get the school board to do it. But if you are low income and you go to underfunded school, there's absolutely no chance that you're going to get a neuropsychological evaluation because the school's not going to cover it because they don't have the money for that, and you can't cover it independently because a neuropsych eval is like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like I did an internship with a neuropsychologist once, and he was talking to a parent about billing, and I was in the room, and he was like, "Okay, so it's gonna be $700 for the 7th, $300," and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, this is insane! Like, why are you charging that much?"
Can Can we acknowledge how expensive
Yes.
diagnostic testing is at all? Because like so Alex and I have another friend who's like significantly like more like higher SES, higher middle class. His name is Alan, and he has autism. And like when we helped like we helped him come to the realization that he has autism. And we when we were having those conversations together, I think like Alex had like, do you want to have testing? And it was like, I'm not sure I'll just see how much it is, but I'm not sure if even we will be able to afford that. And that kind of like struck me because bro is like doing well than most other people in the country right now, and like he wasn't even sure if he was able to afford that.
Oh
So like
yeah,
that
it
says
really
something.
does. Only rich, affluent people can have access to neuropsychological evaluations. And there are social services that provide them, but and I was lucky enough to have those. My mom didn't have to pay for a lot of my neuropsych evals, but those are very few and far between.
Oh, definitely. It's yeah, this like talking about this up is like it's interesting for us, but it can also be like really like mind-boggling and also kind of depressing when you think about it.
Exactly. Hmm. What else to discuss?
What else? Oh wait, okay. So I wanted. So right now we have a chat open that we have that our friends are in. So the friends we just met. So Daryl said
Aw.
thank you for mentioning me, which is really helpful. And then Alan just contributed. He said I remember that, and yes, it's outrageously expensive. I'm still not sure if I'm able to afford it, which is crazy.
Which is
Wow.
fucking insane.
So yeah, they're listening to.
Also,
I
you're on,
know.
Daryl.
What? Oh yeah. I want to talk about cultural appropriation because so. Sorry. Um. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So cultural appropriation is um like don't know what kind of racism that would be, but
Covert,
but
probably,
anyway,
because it
so
could
it's
be.
basically like
Well,
no, it's kind of obvious when like a community like the people
but
white people
they
like
don't know
steal
that
a
they're.
word. That's kind of obvious.
They don't. A lot of them may not know that they're being racist? Question mark. A lot of people. A lot of white people probably don't even
I
know what
don't
cultural
know.
appropriation even is. Like they don't even realize that they're doing that. They don't know that it's not
That's
okay.
that's a good point. They probably just see a word and they're like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, cool
So I
word. Let
don't.
me
I
use
feel
that."
like it would be
So
covert because they don't realize
that's,
they're doing it.
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a really. I didn't think of that. Sorry, I was looking at it from like the minorities with it, but yeah. So okay, so to give context for what we're talking about, so cultural appropriation is like when there's something called
African American
AAVE,
Vernacular
and
English.
thank you because I did not know what it stands for. So I'm just gonna call it AAVE because I'm not gonna remember that. So it's the dialects that people of color speak, and like a very recognizable word is
Yeah,
finna. I
finna.
don't know if I said that right, but finna. Uh, yeah, yeah, and so like that's like one of the prominent words that I think a lot of people, even who aren't black, know. And so like it's like words like that, and so cultural appropriation is when you take a word such as finna, and then like you're not black, you don't know a black person, like you in no way like would you even like hear about slash know this word, and like you like see it online or something, and you're like, oh, I want to use this word. So then you a white person to another white person like is like I'm finna or I don't know how even you would use it. I finna. I don't know. I don't know if you're supposed to say I'm or what. But anyway, so I'm finna go to the store. I can't even say it right. Sorry, because I'm not part of their community, so it would make sense. But anyway, so you like use it, and then like that other person will use it too because like you use it, and then it just spreads. And so like then you like the white people have essentially like kind of just stolen that word from AAVE and the black community, and which is very upsetting for them, understandably. So a good example of this, which I think a lot of people realize, question mark, is the word woke, because it originally meant like you're aware of something. I think, like in AAVE, but then white people came and they like stole it, and two politicized it, and so like the like that's like a very like notable example of like how like language can kind of be like commandeered by another group, and so that's what cultural appropriation is, like using a word or a phrase or something that that somebody okay. And also a side note, it can apply to other communities, not just of AAVA and the black community. A good example of this is gay community. A slay, a very recognizable gay word. White women have recently, I don't know if it's recently, but like white women have been using this a lot, even if they're straight, and that is another example of cultural appropriation. And so that it just like taking a word when it's not yours,
Yeah, you
basically.
explained that a lot better than I ever could. Yeah, that's that's exactly what it is. I did not realize like I've heard of the word culture appropriation, but I didn't know what it was until you and like the rest of the group explained it to me, like fully explained it to me, and now I'm like, oh, got it. And like I realized that there were a lot of words that I was saying that were from the black community, were from the gay community that I didn't even know I was using. So now I'm like actively trying to not say those things, which is helpful because then I can decode that too.
Right? Yes. It is. No, that's recognizing your privilege. Okay. Also, I wanted to highlight what Micah just said, because so Micah is another friend we have.
And
He's
from a low SES
in the black
background, speaking
community,
in
and
emojis.
so thank you. Yes, because so this is an important thing that I actually missed, because so he said that they have to replace the word shit, which because like you had a word and it worked, and then like somebody just stole it, so like that's understandable why you would replace the word. And so he said that the woke got replaced with you heard. I'm not using that right. I don't know, but so like. and like that must be really exhausting to like have to make new words for a thing when you already had a word and somebody just snatched it from you.
Exactly.
Was there anything else that we was there anything else that we
Yeah.
talked about last time?
And we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes. So we should probably end it here for
Oh,
the
whoops.
sanity of our viewers. The two people that are gonna watch this
That's a
shit.
good point. Probably. Um. Yeah, I feel like this is a good place to end off. If this works, then we'll just figure out
Yeah.
where we should go next with the next one. Um.
Alright. Bye, guys. Thanks for
Okay.
listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.